I don't often get a chance to have another long-term trainer on like myself, but I'd love to do it because I love chatting with my colleagues. And I just think, our business is better when we're meeting with each other, connecting with each other, sharing what we do. And I think we have the best job out there, man. I mean, we're doing awesome stuff, I think, and trying to help people. So here with Chris Ryan. Chris, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you, Darian. I'm so excited to be here. You do great work in the fitness community with so many of your trainers and your followers and your listeners. So I'm super pumped to be here.
Well, thanks for being here. And, the people on the show that you listen to it, they know I talked to the guests beforehand, and Chris and I had a wonderful conversation before, and we were thinking about what's the best thing we're going to talk about. And I think for a two trainers perspective, adherence is really the big topic in discussing. Big part of the job is getting people to show up regularly.
100%.
And they show up regularly. I always think that, if someone shows up regularly with me, they're going to feel pretty good about the experience, and they're going to get a variety of different results. And so, this podcast, we talk a lot about science and research articles. So we're going to kick this off with actually the American College of Sports Medicine. This is brand new, right off of the press, 2026. ACSM has a resistance training guide for healthy adults. And this is their position stand in their medicine and science and sports and exercise issues. So they basically reviewed 137 articles. So this meta-analysis, a systemic review involving 30,000 participants, huge study here. And basically what it looks at, Chris, is looking at strength, hypertrophy, power across all adults, age groups. And what we've seen, the data is showing that, indicating that the most meaningful gains come from simply people going from no training to almost any form of training. And if they just show up regularly, they have an incredible increase in their results, and they end up becoming regular exercisers. So they show up regularly. Consistency beats complexity over advanced training techniques, periodization, different concepts, whether it's compound sets, supersets, whether it's specific training modalities. If people just go from not training to training, they feel a huge amount better about themselves, and they tend to stick with it. What do you think about that?
I absolutely love that study. I haven't seen that one yet, but that's why I talk to smart people like yourself that are smarter than me to bring those studies to me. So I'm pumped for that. I always say the best workout is the one that you actually do. Sometimes I feel like you can get, and not to take away from the science of the subject matter here, but sometimes you can really get into science, but you don't need a perfect plan. You need a plan that survives a bad week. Because at the end of the day, we are humans. We are not perfect. We have careers, we have sleepless nights, so we have children, we have aging parents, we have challenges throughout our life, financial, psychological, whatever they might be, barriers to entry, if you will. But I always like to say the best workout is the one that you actually do. So as trainers, if we can help our client just get that workout done, even if we gear it out an hour, maybe sometimes it becomes more of a back and forth talk while you're doing something, but you kind of got to learn to read your client situation for that time as they're doing their dynamic warm up with you in the first couple of minutes, kind of size them up. Do they really look, gray under the eyes or whatever? Do they just, I just sleep last night? Or sometimes they come in and they're just super energetic and you're like, they're going to hit a PR today. I already see it. And other times you're just, wow, I'm just happy that they're here, and then kind of read the room, if you will.
Yeah, most definitely. I love how you mentioned that survives a tough or bad week. And this, I think, for our new trainers, a lot of new trainers are going to listen to this. And I think sometimes, when you kind of have rose-colored glasses when you first start training, you think, man, everybody's making gains all the time, man, we're going to have this great, write down the perfect program, which is usually the enemy of progress, because people are going to people are going to be lifing all the time. And you and I have been in it for a while. We have children, spouses. Your life's complex. But your training program doesn't need to be super complex all the time.
Yeah, apologies for the bags under my eyes. I speak from experience. We have a 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 2.5-year-old. who somehow or another kicks me out of our bed. The young one kicks me out of my bed about like 4 a.m. in the morning, which I'm always an early riser. I always have early
Yeah.
clients and everything else, like most trainers do. But
Yep.
I was like, that last hour of sleep, it just robs daddy of his sleep. Just that last hour. I don't ask for a lot in life, but I know that it's short lived and it's gonna work its way out or in the days, weeks, the months ahead. But yeah, it's even for myself. I speak from my own experience, from my own individual training, my own individual self. But after having trained so many different individuals over the course of a couple decades now, you sometimes, when you're training, if you train only like elite athletes, the Olympic D1, D2, D3
Yeah.
style collegiate level athletes, professional athletes, you're really training like 0.001% of the crowd out there, which is bad or good. It's just that's your target segment. So you end up really getting into science a little bit more, where you're like, oh, okay, I did this plyometric progression for this said individual or this athlete. And you can, and they're disciplined because that's their job, right? Or if they're a collegiate level athlete, that's a portion of their, their job, if you will, within in the university setting. In the Olympics type standpoint, yeah, that's their main goal right now. They want a podium, they want a medal, so they're gonna put their life on hold for everything else. But not many people have that choice. 99.99% of the other folks out there, including myself, including you, I'm sure. It's just like, sometimes I just gotta listen to my body a little bit more, read the room a little bit more with my client, ask them, did they travel? Did they sleep well? And realize some days are gonna be absolutely fantastic. And other days you're already gonna have your spreadsheet all filled out for them or your training program. And then you're gonna be like, well, that just ships sailed.
Yeah.
But guess what? I always say like 2 minutes of a workout is a lot better. If you did 10 squats or whatever, that's a lot better than 0 squats. If you
That's
did
right.
2 minutes of a 20-minute workout or a 20-minute segment of your workout, and that's all you can handle today, that's totally cool too. Sometimes if you had it, 4 rounds of a certain rep scheme down and you were able to PR and hit a fifth round or something like that, that's even better, but like not every day is going to be like that. The PR days are few and far between for most of us. A lot of us just want to get out there, get sweaty, open up your spine a little bit, get
Mhm.
the hips open, loose, strong, feel, like you're successful at something that you did that day for that said period of time, half hour, 10 minutes, whatever it might be with your trainer.
So tell me a little bit before we get into the next study here. I would
Mhm.
love to know more about your history when you started to this kind of epiphany came to you about working with clients and this surviving a bad week. When did that start to dawn on you that, whoa, whoa, I need to think about this and maybe in a little different way? Or did you come to that early?
So I came, no, I didn't. I guess I came into it early in my training career after I kind of learned to read the room. But when I started out, I was a Division 1 athlete myself, a collegiate, middle distance runner. I'm jealous that you were a sprinter.
Mm.
I be a sprinter. I just didn't have that
Yeah,
lockdown speed.
yeah.
But so I came from a middle distance background, so I had that kind of understanding of anaerobic, aerobic threshold, pain point of being an 800-meter runner, for better or for worse. And, so I kind of came from it from that standpoint first of like the trainer that says, oh, this is the science, blinders on. Everyone should be, oh, here's our progression. And this is exactly what we were going to do. And then I moved to New York City and I trained very high level executives, people that very wealthy, very, I don't know if type A is the word that I want to really use, but just at the height of their game, tons of responsibility, shareholders, hundreds, if not thousands of employees that they're answering to, a lot going on their plate, right? But they also knew that they needed to pay themselves first, right? They knew that if they were better in the gym, they were going to be better for their spouse, their colleagues, their coworkers, their shareholders, the people that work for their companies, all of it, right? Their employees, and and if they were able to be, work on their strength, work on their mobility, work on their aerobic capacity, work on their longevity, if you will, they were going to be better for everybody else. And what I did though is learn to like understand that certain days could be really like a 180 from one another. Like let's say the client, I don't know, I'm just using numbers like we're squatting 100 pounds one day and then doing some sprint intervals on the
Yeah.
treadmill at the end of it at 10 miles an hour for a couple minutes at a time or something to finish on out. Very, loose numbers here, but just thinking about it from a
Yeah.
scientific perspective. Well, there'd be times that like maybe, I saw them and I'd be like, when during the warm up phase, that, oh, you just got back from like a red eye.
Yep.
Okay. I need to like retool that thinking, or, oh, even understanding like maybe follow them on LinkedIn, kind of see what's going on in their everyday lives, or they're probably a lot of them aren't going to be on social media, except for certain types of like maybe LinkedIn, or you can read about
Yeah.
whatever they do in their lives. We should understand a little bit more about the professional lives of your clients. You don't have to be a private investigator, but understand like, oh, wow, they have quarterly earnings going on right now. They're probably going to be slightly stressed out, or they had a bad quarterly earnings or something.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with the New York City clientele that I've dealt with for the last couple decades, you really start to understand, like, you got to kind of take a whole holistic view of their overall lives. Maybe they had a baby at some point, recently. And of course, like I just mentioned a few minutes ago, sleepless nights, even with a toddler. Just because the babies grow up a little bit, 2 or 3 years down, that means they all regress in sleep patterns and everything else. And sleep, as we all know, no one's going to argue on this point how important sleep actually is. But it's really like, I came to an epiphany really early on in my training career as a professional, not so much as myself, right? Because with myself, kind of had that discipline of like,
Yeah.
oh, I just like, you just grind ahead as an athlete. You just like, chalk it up as a bad day, right? Which that's a whole other argument, could lead to overtraining, injuries, and all that other stuff. After having like look at it with 2020 vision, being so amazing, but also annoying, because you're like, I finally knew that when I was 20. Hopefully they listen to this podcast, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I learned early on, because once you start to understand your clients with a full 360 view, then you're really going to understand your clients. They're going to refer you out more, because the best trainers are going to be the ones that show up and show out for their clients on things that didn't even understand, right? To where all of a sudden, like, you can say things of like, oh, hydration, let's get another, let's drink some water today. Because like maybe they just got off of a red eye, or maybe they
Yeah.
just got off a transatlantic flight or trans-Pacific flight or something the day before. Or maybe they had a really late work dinner and they had a big steak and they're just like, oh, I just feel like lethargic today. Or maybe they just like had an absolutely fantastic vacation. They're ready to rock and roll and they're having an amazing day. And you can push them a little bit more to PR City, if you will, at that point. So
Yeah.
it's just understanding where they are at that balance in their life, like what they're, aligning with their goals overall, but be flexible, and realize that them showing up and them showing out aren't necessarily always going to align with the showing out portion of them showing up, right? Sometimes it'll
I
just be
love that.
like the showing up is actually going to be the victory. The showing out comes and goes, even for the best athletes out there,
It's true.
let alone for like the everyday folks out there that are just trying to be their best selves.
Great comment. Showing up versus showing out. I mean, that just simplifies that. Chris and I have very similar clientele, and I always remember early on in my career working with folks who were taking red eyes, coming back from Macau, doing business dinners every night, and all out being transparent, showing up hungover,
Mhm.
sleep deprived, or I would, nurses, shift workers, you're just dealing with the spectrum of different people who are hard charging, working in intense environments, regardless of it. And them showing up is a massive victory. I mean, everything's going against them to be there at that point.
Y-
But them
Oh,
showing up is like, wow, you made it here. Look what you did. You made it here in the face of all of this, the chaos of your life that is you're doing. I'm always amazed by that. I always praise my clients for that. I'm just like, you made it here. You've done 80% of the work, man. you know?
100%. The first goal shouldn't be result. It's just proving to yourself that you can show up, right? Sometimes, people always say, I want to lose 10 pounds or 100 pounds or gain 10 pounds of muscle or run a 6-minute mile or
Yeah.
bench 300 pounds or deadlift 350 pounds or whatever it might be, whatever your random goal. Do my first pull up, do 10 pull ups. I don't know. Whatever those random goals for all these different individuals that we come across in our lives, or do your first marathon or high rocks race.
Yeah.
You understand that, like, okay, well, let's figure out where it's at. And then other times people just showing up and being like, I'm here, like, show me the way. Right. And I've had all sorts of people. It's people that have come in from like a pretty elite athletic background, training collegiate level athletes, professional style athletes, to people that literally kind of show up and like, they're like, okay, I've never worked out. I'm an
Yep.
adult, but I know I need this.
Yeah.
I've read enough articles. I'm smart enough. I have the means. I'm here. Just literally show me the way. I've never looked at a weight before in my life. I'm a clean slate, let's rock. So
Let's rock.
a little
Yeah.
better.
Well, and then the role of the personal trainer, I think, just can't be understated. So this next article I want to present here, it's really the efficacy of interventions to promote exercise adherence. And this is actually a pretty large meta-analysis. So it's 17 studies combined into one and 17 randomized controlled trials. So this is a very strong research. And it basically is looking at what does the intervention of having a trainer do for adherence, and specifically also exercise intensity as part of that. And I'm shortening this up quite a bit just for the purpose of our
Mhm.
podcast here. But the big value proposition is that the trainer's presence and the social environment of the trainer's presence are more vital to long-term success than even just the exercises performed, the intensity of it. Just having a trainer in itself drastically increases adherence. So I'd love for you to talk about how you feel in your work, how your presence really is a big deal in terms of helping people. Because I think we sometimes put that off. We're like, well, they're doing the work. I'm just here
Mhm.
to help you. But I feel we have a great job. We have a really important job. We get to see people in a very vulnerable light. We actually
Yeah.
see people in ways other people in their life never see them. That's
Mhm.
actually really incredible, I think.
Oh, 100%. It's kind of like in the business world, they say, "Oh, take your client or your boss golfing, or take your team golfing, if you will."
Yeah.
Because you do that, you see the way that they are on the golf course, which leads you to a whole host of like, peering behind the rock or behind the door of like
Right.
what that person truly does. Like, do they cheat? Are they a team player? Are they fun and jovial to be around? You're with somebody for 4 hours and that sort of thing. So whole host of things within golf, but also taking that into account in the fitness setting for us as trainers, it's extremely vulnerable. It's probably somewhere between that and like, being somebody that you see all the time. Like maybe like
Yeah.
you hear about your favorite, like, I don't know, like Cheers used to be a show when we were growing up, and they
Yeah. Yeah.
Cheers afterward, and like
Yep.
your favorite bartender, or
Everybody knows
sometimes
your name.
your barber or your hairdresser, or
Yep.
somebody that you see routinely that doesn't really necessarily have a stance in your life, but they're kind of an important individual to your life. Like, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of times they're your dentist, whatever it is, like somebody that you see, maybe several times a year or, once a month or something like that. Like, so that you see that person, you're kind of like loyal to them for lack of a better term, for whatever reasons it might be. But somehow or another, they make you feel better. They do
Yeah.
something for you in that regard. But for us, it's almost like, take away the term trainer. It's almost more like, I love the term accountability coach.
Mhm.
Like being accountable for yourself. Like I would say, I'll want it as much as you want it to my clients and the people I've trained over the years. I can't want it more than you, but I will definitely make sure I want it as much as you. So that means that if you want to train at 5 a.m., sweet, I'll train you at 5 a.m. Let's do it. I'm not going to complain about it. If um, if you want to train at evening hours, great. I'll make myself available the best I can with,
Yeah.
other clients and family and that sort of thing. But I'll give them the options, right? And I'm not just like, oh, I only train clients between 6 a.m. and
Yeah.
10 a.m. and that's it. If you can't make it, I'm sorry. I understand certain trainers work-life balance, like that's okay because they're working on podcasts or they're working on
Sure.
blogs and writing assignments and whatever else, their own personal training goals, family things. But in general, I think that we should make ourselves as accountable to our clients as possible. Build your business around that within the framework of what you can handle as the person that you are, and go from there and charge accordingly too.
Yep.
Because if they're asking you to do something to get up at 5 a.m., great. That's going to be whatever it is
Mhm.
for, extra fee, instead of like my 9 to 5 hours, if you will,
Yeah.
right? Like it's okay. And guess what? A lot of times they'll be like, fine, I don't care. They'll pay that for you know? And then it becomes a problem. I remember being in New York, I'd be like working a long, like
Yeah.
long,
Yeah.
because people would just be like, you start charging more until you just like literally can't really charge much more per hour because it's become very aggressive. And then at the same time, you're like, all right, now I have all this great business. All right, well now I really like
Yeah.
burning the candle at both ends, if you will. But then COVID happened and that evened everything out
Yeah.
because then everything switched online. Exhausting. So it worked out a little bit
Yeah.
better for me. But always thinking like business mindset as much as possible, and then gearing that towards your clients and their overall goals and how you can hold them accountable for themselves.
Yeah. And I think what's one of the things I always tell my clients, because sometimes they'll say, I feel bad, like I need all this help and, I feel like I have you because I'm failing. They'll say, you're not failing. I'm like, you asked for help. That's not a weakness. You need
Mhm.
accountability. I said, you're part of like the majority of the population. This isn't special that you're feeling this way.
Yeah.
I'm like, a lot of people need help. It's just we've stigmatized help as a bad thing for people, and that, oh, well, why can't I work out on my own? It's not a failure for you. In
No, not
fact,
at
you've
all.
empowered yourself by
Mhm.
creating an accountability mechanism so that you can be there for yourself and other people in your life. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It's we like community in general for the most part. Humans are community driven people, and they've proven. And like if you look at like blue zones, like one of the
Mhm.
the biggest things beyond like no one's really out there running a marathon a day or lifting
Yeah.
thousands of pounds in the blue zones or just eating kale the whole
Right.
time, right? Like it's kind of like they just walk, they laugh, they, have a community, right? Like, they laugh with good friends.
Yep.
They have some sort of sense of higher being power or whatever it
Yeah.
might be, or purpose in life, whether it's spiritual, religious, or
Mhm.
business, or family. And but that sense of, like, community really helps out, right? So you have that foundation that'll be there to support you on your tough days or your bad days or challenging days, whatever they might be, so that you're there, and that's where I truly feel like trainers, if you think of like the accountability factor of wanting as much as your clients want it, whatever that said goal is for themselves, all of a sudden your own mindset as a trainer changes for the positive in that regard. Because we all have bad days. We have
Yeah.
clients that drive us nuts at times, and you're like, oh my God, if I have to hear one more dang excuse, I just want to like pull my hair out or just like, run around the block and yell or whatever it is. Um, We've all been there, right? And it's okay to be honest with your clients because they're paying you to be honest too.
Yeah.
I've actually talked to like I've had a couple of literally billionaire clients that I've like talked to, like they're like a very normal person. I wouldn't say a derogatory way, but I've laid this to
Yeah.
them straight. And guess what? Not many people do. Like they're
Yeah.
not paying. They wouldn't be paying me to like talk to them and just be like, oh, it's okay. It's doing fantastic. I'll be like, no, I'll call BS. And you know what? Like they respect you more for
Yeah.
that if you are honest with them. They are all smart people. But sometimes they need to be like set straight a little bit too.
Yeah.
And it's okay. And guess what? They'll respect you more for being honest and open with them than to kind of like hide it and be timid or too cordial with them, if you will, just to kind of be like a yes person for them. They don't need more yes people in their life.
I mean,
They
it's
need
filled with
somebody
it.
that'll drive them to their best selves.
Yeah. Their lives are filled with that. I mean, I have so much experience with, high net worth individuals and stuff. And, it's actually, I was told one time in one of my sessions that it's like, Darian, I like these sessions with you because they're so different than the other parts of my life. Like everyone
Mhm.
wants something from me. And it's just like, I'm
Exactly.
always just like telling people this and that. He's like, come in here, you tell me what to do. He's like, no
Yeah.
one tells me what to do usually, but you're telling me what to do. You're honest with me. You're like a very normal person. He's like, I don't have that in my life. And I said, well, listen, I'm just going to be me. I'm not
Mhm.
one of your employees, and stuff. I'm like, you hired me to help you. I'm here to be here for you, but also be honest with you about, hey, if I'm not, the goals you want are misaligned with how much you're showing up. And there's only so much
Mhm.
I could do. If you're not bringing the energy for this to do this, you're not making, the effort, there's only so much we're getting out of it. And I always relate it to their work too. Like sometimes I have people who are like, man, I just want to get these results much quicker. I'm like, where did you start out in your company? It's like, oh, I started out kind of entry level and like, how long did it take you to become the CEO of this company?
I love that example.
Right? And then they go, oh, like 20, 30 years. So why do you think this is any different for your body and your well-being? Same damn thing, man. You got to get on track here. And they go, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's okay because sometimes, you got to do the thinking for them. Like, so
Yeah.
if they're literally paying you, that's where you're bringing the science in and you're saying, look, like nothing happens. Like you didn't gain that 30 pounds of being overweight, like in one day.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. You're not going to lose in one day or even 1 month.
Yeah.
Like it'll take, we're going to like lose a pound or two every couple weeks. We're going to do a couple like really like small changes and kind of get you used to like living a slightly healthier lifestyle, but we're not going to like rip that Band-Aid off and then all of a sudden you're like cold turkey and be like, oh, like if they drink 10 sodas, guess what? A week, like you're not going to get them to drink 0 sodas day one, most likely. Even the most hardened individual, they might tell you, they're like, oh, I'm okay to drink 0 sodas. I just want to really go hardcore. And you're like, all right, well, I've been there, done that with like the hardest of hardcore people. And guess what? By day 3, they're like, maybe they didn't drink a soda, but they're drinking or they're eating like a donut or they're drinking like a sugary Gatorade or whatever it might be, like something to replace it, but in a different form. And then they don't think so. Or if you say, oh, how many alcohol, drinks did you have this week? And they'll tell you, oh, 0. But, and then you find out later they had like 6 beers and sometimes they don't equate a beer as being alcohol. Oh my God. Like, hold on. Okay. Excuse this is back to here.
Funny what people do, man.
You have to be direct.
Well, you got to be direct.
And like do the hard thinking for them so that once again, like you had decided, like they're coming in. They don't want to think. They just want to do. Like they think 23 hours a day, the 1 hour or whatever it is that they have with you. Like just think for them, direct them, be positive, be uplifting, set that floor for them that they can't fail. Right? Like that's the big thing too. Is like you set the floor. It is made out of cement, reinforced with brick and the whatever else so that it can't fail, right? It will not crack, it will not fail even under the harshest condition. And you have that set there, and then everything else that moves on, up the food chain from there, will be, in for them.
Most definitely. And, I think too, our role is, you had mentioned about all those other different professions. And I think one of the things so unique for us is we see people weekly. A lot of those other professions see people maybe once a month, every 6 weeks, every 6 months. It's pretty unique to have a service where you see someone all the time, regularly, and you become a very integral part of their lives. And I think if you can just be as flexible as possible, I think flexibility is like a superpower for trainers. You have to be flexible. You can't be rigid. And when you decrease the barriers for adherence, people want to show up not just for themselves, they start showing up for you too. They want to be around you. They like spending time with you. They enjoy the conversation and the workouts. And all of a sudden, you have another connection. Maybe you have another great friend in your life. And once that happens, they're like, I'm in. Like, I'm going to see Chris every week. Pumped for that. Pumped for that. It moves beyond, it transcends the exercise at that point. It's a relationship, a long-term relationship,
Yeah. Yeah. Early on in my career, I was training, I was fortunate enough to train a very high level hedge fund founder in New York. And he had said something to me along the lines of like, yeah, I spend more time with you and during the work week of the Monday through Friday, I spend more time with you than I do with my wife.
Yeah.
And I was like, so he goes, I better like to, hey, like, I remember he gave me a trial, like his assistant kind of basically alluded to the fact that I was under a trial basis, which you should always operate under the fact that you're always under a trial basis.
You're always under trial.
Years with the people.
Yeah.
But at the time when you're kind of starting, you're like, oh, like I have this great opportunity. Of course I saw it as like a great opportunity. But when when I kind of like rethought of what was going on in front of me and like kind of put that in, I'm like, wow, that's true. Like this guy is working 14, 16-hour days, millions of dollars at stake throughout the day, tons of stress, like more than I could ever handle. That's why I'm not in that world. Right. But like looking at red and green screens all day long of numbers and dealing with corporate boards and hostile takeovers and all this other stuff. And you're like, wow. So several days a week, like he's trusting me with his time. And like, whatever his time is worth on an hourly basis is worth millions of dollars. And you're like, so he's trusting me with millions of dollars of like his 24 hours that he has to live in this day. And I'm like, that's pretty damn cool. That's
Yeah.
empowering, and I should be proud of that. And then at the same time, I'm like, but I also got to be protective of that. And back to that adherence, right? Like making sure he believes in this goal as much in my programming as much as he needs to show up
Yeah.
and then be his best self, right?
Yeah.
Because if not, if the the best programs survive the worst weeks, right?
Right.
You really got to make sure of that. Like the best programs survive the worst weeks. And sometimes people can have very bad weeks or months or days, whatever it might be. And you got to remember, like, okay, figure out, like, be malleable within your program. Always build that person up in some way, shape, or form. Almost be, more of a coach than even a trainer
That's
at
right.
times, I love this book I've been reading. I don't know if you've seen it or not. It's called Trillion. I believe it's called $1 Trillion Coach. Blue cover, guy in a hat, ball hat from a side profile view. It's about Bill Campbell. He was a former Columbia football coach in the 70s. He's passed on now, about 2015, 2016. He passed on, but he was the coach, and he was the CEO of a bunch of different companies in Silicon Valley. Moved out into Silicon Valley after his coaching career ended in the early, I believe it was like the early mid 80s, and started out working with Apple, like Sun Microsystems, all these big companies. Became like the executive coach for Steve Jobs and Eric Schmidt from Google, and worked with the founders of Google and everything else, and a bunch of others that I'm probably forgetting about. But he was by no means an engineer. Like they were like, he didn't know anything about like computer engineering or whatever, like, but he knew everything about teams and team building. And he was literally like, they call him $1 trillion coach because of the amount of like value of market share that he had, and like the things that he did in a very decisive manner for people at certain points and trajectories in their career were insurmountable. Of like, oh wow, that's one of the reasons why Steve Jobs came back to Apple, for instance, was because of this individual. But it's a great read, great book. But I think like understanding like what your clients may be going through, don't be afraid to like venture outside of the spectrum of
Yeah.
strength and conditioning and look at more of like business style books or whatever, like whatever healthcare, whatever your client base
Yeah.
is, or parenting, for instance, whatever your specialty is, and understand that basis a little bit more from time to time. But yeah, it's a great book, definitely worth the read for the folks out there, as well, in the training world. So
Yeah.
we splice it up a little bit differently than just
Yeah.
reading, the journals and everything that we are subject to a lot of times.
Yeah, most definitely. And you talked about parenting, and so many clients, have children, and it can be very overwhelming and stressful. And I have clients where like their time with me is their time to have alone time with another adult and not be responsible for that part of their lives. And it's just
Mhm.
knowing all these things about the people you're working with. I mean, it's a people industry. And if you can get people to show up regularly to take care of themselves, and a bonus is they get another good person in their life that is supporting them and cheerleading them, man, there's almost nothing better than that, man. And it's like, that's always take my job. I always tell people I have the best job. I get to have regular conversations with wonderful people all the time while helping them move their body regularly, feeling good about themselves. And then we just keep showing up for each other. This is a
Mhm.
mutually symbiotic relationship. I'm helping them, they're helping me, and we're all making a better situation out of the whole thing that we're in. It's really a beautiful concept in many ways. That I just think it's an
100%.
incredible thing that we get to do.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that one. I 100% agree with that one. This has been great, Darian.
Yeah,
I
it's been
really
great.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope your listeners got a lot out of our podcast
Yeah.
on this one. I'd love to be on the show again with you at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots to
Talk
talk
about
about.
various. Yeah, it's so much to talk about.
Lots to talk about. Yeah, just like all trainers getting out there, our session has ended on this one here.
Mhm.
And Chris, thank you so much for being a part of this part of my life, and for helping all the trainers who are going to listen to this and hear your wisdom and your knowledge and clearly your care. for being in
Mhm.
this industry for a long time. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Oh, honor's all mine, Darren. Thank you so much for having me on. Really appreciate you.